Grant Hill. Oh! Buckle up!
The best that Grant Hill can do.
March 31st, 1998. United Center, Chicago, Illinois. 10 games left in a regular season. The Pistons brought their future. The Bulls brought their legacy. And Michael Jordan, he brought the smoke. But that night, something felt different. Something felt off. People called Grant Hill the next MJ. Not only fans, but also experts. However, that night in Chicago, the real one showed up. This wasn't just another game at the United Center. Another usual night in which fans expected nothing but a win. It was a clash of generations. The old king versus the new challenger. And Jordan? We already know he wasn't about to hand over the crown. Detroit wasn't trying to bring back the bad boys at that point. Those days of the Jordan rules, of the toughness of Thomas, Laimbeer, Dumars, were part of the past. The reality was that they were bringing something newer, flashier. Grant Hill, the All-NBA first phenom, one of the most popular players in basketball history. Jerry Stackhouse, the high-flying rookie from Philly. Some called them the next generation, but also some dared to call Hill the next Michael Jordan. In a rivalry that was still going strong even years after its heyday, the Pistons had managed to reinvent themselves. They had managed to transition into a new era. But the Bulls didn't have that luxury. Their roster was old, full of players who were reaching the end of their careers. So this game, in a way, reflected the clash of two different eras, the old school and the new school. Jordan had a lot of work to do if he wanted to prevail on the throne. In the past, the Pistons were the nemesis of the Chicago Bulls. When it seemed that the duopoly of the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics in the 1980s was finally over, Michael Jordan was unable to take over. Because Detroit had also been waiting for their chance for a long time, and they beat the Bulls season after season. However, Jordan ended up finishing them off, and he forced them to literally rebuild their team. Years later, everything was finally in place. The Pistons had acquired new young talent that threatened to take control of the league. Grant Hill was their leader, an All-NBA player who people kept comparing to Mike, and who also had a similar media impact. And although the reality was that the Pistons had had a difficult season for various reasons, the opportunity to play against the greatest player of all time doesn't come around every day. They had to take advantage of it. So Michael Jordan didn't just have one goal. Yes, he had to win the 1998 championship to achieve his second three-peat, a title that would cement the Bulls as the most dominant dynasty in modern basketball. But he also had something else to do. In the increasingly pronounced generation gap that separated the young from the old talents, there was a lot to prove. Jordan and his Bulls wanted to remain kings, but teams like the Pistons, much more athletic, had the tools to make that impossible. So on March 31st, 1998, Chicago and Detroit arrived at the United Center for a hugely important game with the end of the season in sight. The Pistons were fighting for a playoff spot and needed that W because there were only 10 games left in the regular season, 10 more games to change their season around. The time had come. Grant Hill was the first to bite that night. He was a tremendously well-rounded player on both sides of the ball, so he was able to turn defense into offense on plays like this. But night after night, on a failed alley-oop attempt by Pippen to Jordan, MJ was able to grab the loose ball for a dunk and get his first 2 points of the night. Michael, with a team built around him, was able to move around the court with total freedom. He hit the reverse spin move, then found Luke Longley on the cut. By 1998, he had learned so much that he couldn't just torch you with buckets. He could also torch you with dimes. Just a few moments later, Jordan receives the ball at the right elbow to attack. He goes baseline, then pulls up against two defenders, and then gets the bucket again. There are no exceptions. In every single MJ game we've analyzed on the channel, we've seen how he loves that 10 to 15 feet distance from the low block. The best thing about Michael is that he was able to do the same thing over and over again efficiently, because it didn't matter what the defense did. Look, right after that, he gets the ball back at the elbow, and without even putting the ball on the floor, he pulls up and knocks down the jumper. But while leading the offense by selecting his shots well, Jordan was also setting up his teammates. On this play, he receives the ball at the top of the key. Then we see an instant double team, but Michael makes the right read by finding Ron Harper for the long two. Again, defended by Grant Hill, Jordan gives another master class in reading the game. This time he returns to his spot, drawing the attention of multiple defenders to finally throw a skip pass that reaches a wide-open Steve Kerr. We already know that the Bulls guard was automatic from mid-range and long distance. It was one of those days when Jordan was absolutely everywhere. He was also present on defense, creating disruptions and helping the Bulls turn defense into instant offense. In fact, that night we even saw Michael act as a rim protector, blocking shots everywhere, as in this play where Hunter is left in the dark. However, Grant Hill was starting to warm up. His ability to find gaps on drives was reminiscent of MJ. He was a little slower, less explosive, but just as effective because of his ability to time his moves. It seemed like MJ wanted to show him that he could do it too, as he drew a foul using his technique rather than his athleticism. But at the same time, he was determined to keep feeding his teammates, as in this pass that leads to a Pippen 3. When you least expected it, he brought out his aggressive side. Check out this incredible dunk where MJ sucks the gravity out of the United Center to posterize Bison Dele. And now that he had drawn the defense's attention, he found Luke Longley, who was open on the left block. Jordan had a counter for everything. He read the defense in real time. This time you're giving me a little more space? Okay, I'll hit you with the pull-up midi. And although the Pistons continued to show that they were an excellent transition team thanks to the youth of their roster, that was nothing compared to the dominance Michael Jordan was showing in the first 48 minutes. By halftime, Chicago was up by 15. The Detroit players realized the enormous power of Jordan as a playmaker, who had scored 12 points and dished out 5 assists in the first 2 quarters, in addition to 2 steals and 1 block. Bulls fans already thought it would be just another night in which Chicago would defeat its weaker rival. But Alvin Gentry's halftime speech fired up his players, and the second half would be completely different. Hill got to work on defense, getting easy baskets in transition. And just like Jordan that night, he wanted to involve his teammates at every opportunity. But above all, he kept his eyes on the hoop at all times. Jordan had to react if he didn't want to see the first half lead go down the drain. And he started to do so with this difficult mid-range shot against both Grant Hill and Lindsey Hunter. Moments later, he drilled another shot from a similar spot after going to his right. And right after that, while the Pistons were managing to close the gap on every trip, he knocked down yet another fadeaway jumper from low post. What's more, he did it right in front of Jerry Stackhouse. At that moment, he was the only one stepping up. Because of that, the Pistons defense increased the pressure on Jordan again. But Michael always made the right decision, finding Harper for another wide-open long 2. And to cap off a third quarter that was an absolute masterclass, Jordan swishes another jump shot from 14 feet away to beat the buzzer. The Pistons had cut the lead to 2 points, but Michael's heroics had allowed them to start the fourth quarter with an 8-point lead. That said, the game was far from over. Mike's mindset didn't change when the fourth quarter began. After receiving a terrible pass from Dennis Rodman, Jordan operates between 2 defenders to get a decent look for mid-range that, for him, was a layup. But right after that, what many fans remember as the best play of the game would take place. And it wasn't Mike. Watch as Grant Hill destroys Scottie Pippen's ankles with a crossover that he finishes with a ferocious dunk. The Pistons were on fire, and Grant Hill kept finding spaces in the Bulls' paint, whether with drives or cuts like this one, and his connection with Stackhouse was becoming more and more fluid. Check out the pass to Jerry for the dunk. Grant Hill was constantly attacking Pippen in the low post, trying to take advantage of him on every play. And the truth is that many times, he succeeded. He was toying with one of the best defenders in the entire league. Again, and again, and again. And with this 3, Joe Dumars put the Pistons up by 2 with just over a minute left in the game. In what could be the last possession of the game, the Bulls needed a bucket. And Jordan came to the rescue with an incredible pass to Randy Brown, who scores his only 2 points of the game from the free throw line. But after Grant Hill misses his game-winning attempt, the game goes into overtime. Jordan sets the tone early, assisting Pippen on a 3 from the top of the key. And moments later, he draws the foul in transition when, at 35 years old, he gets to the other side of the court faster than anyone else. Although Grant Hill continued to pound the Bulls' paint in an unstoppable fashion, Jordan soon proved that it would be to no avail. With a fadeaway catch and shoot from the low block, he managed to increase the lead to 5 points. A lead that the Pistons would never be able to overcome. Even despite moments of genius like this one from Grant Hill, thanks to a few stops, Chicago managed to close out the game with a victory. Michael, at 35, had once again proven that he was one step ahead of the new school. Even though Grant Hill had a great game, his performance of 26 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, 4 steals, and 2 blocks allowed him to prevail over Detroit. Of course, Chicago qualified for the 1998 playoffs, where they had no rivals to match them. And with the legendary The Last Shot, Michael Jordan not only achieved the second three-peat of his career, cementing his status as the greatest legend of all time, but also played his last game in a Chicago Bulls uniform. It was the perfect icing on the cake for an unparalleled career that would endure for eternity. But on that night against the Pistons, Michael really showed that he was touched by a magic wand. His athleticism had always been so incredible that even at 35, he was still among the elite in the NBA. But he had progressed so much in other aspects of the game that it seemed he no longer needed his athleticism. With a technical masterclass against a very young team, with his fadeaways, pull-ups, footwork, and incredible playmaking ability, he proved that he would never relinquish his throne. The only way to get him out of there was if he wanted to leave. This game against the Pistons represented a clash of eras, an anomaly in time that allowed us to see two different styles of basketball at the same time. But is this the best game in which Jordan imposed his reign over the new school? Drop your pick in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. If you live for legendary breakdowns, epic rivalries, and the moments that made basketball history, subscribe to First 5 Hoops and join a community of real basketball fans. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with all our latest content. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.